talking about giftings again, I want to really hone in on something very important as well. I mean, it's still sort of going along with what I was saying prior about the spiritual gifts and not being jealous of the spiritual gifts of the other, but rather lifting each other up instead. One thing you also need to realize is personality is attached to purpose too. And I think people have not realized that the personality of a person is actually attached to purpose. I want to really make you see something that God tends to also do, which I've discovered. Moses was given the purpose of leading the flock, right? Leading the Israelites out of Egypt, basically being a partaker in the deliverance of the Israelites out of Egypt. He was the deliverer. Before he left Egypt, there were a few things that I realized. One, Moses was impatient. Moses was impatient. He he wanted to do things to help the Israelites when he discovered that he was not like the Egyptians. If you don't know the story of Moses, Moses was a Levite child or Levite baby who was born under the circumstances of a that were a bit tough. The Israelites at the time were slaves to the Egyptians. The Egyptians had a king called the Pharaoh who did not like the Israelites and wanted pretty much to weaken them. And so he decided to send out a decree to kill all male born children and to make sure that no male child would survive even a childbirth. So what they did was they made even midwives to kill male born children. But for Moses, he managed to survive that, and somehow the mom kept him for 3 months. But when it was not easy for her to keep him any more longer, she, hiding him constantly, she had to put him into a basket and put him in the river, hoping that something good would happen for him. And just the idea of the child dying was in front of her eyes probably was something that she didn't want to experience, so she put him in a basket instead. And then he got discovered by the princess, the Egyptian princess, and she took him up and wanted to look after him. And that's the favor of the Lord right there. And he grew up as an Egyptian prince. But obviously he discovered his roots and he wanted to help. But now with the way he was, he wanted to help in his own ways, and he ended up killing an Egyptian in the process. And because of that, he had to flee because they had discovered him. And so when we're seeing all these things, it wasn't probably something that the Lord wanted for him to end up doing, but I'm just trying to show you the kind of person he was. He learned patience when he got to a place called Midian, and he fell in love with one of the shepherd women who were there, who were sisters, and he married one of them, and the father-in-law gave him some flock to look after. So he learned how to be patient there in that place. But one thing I also wanted to also pick up on as well is the same guy who was impatient, right? He's sent back to deliver. the Israelites and take them through their deliverance, take them through the Red Sea, take them through the wilderness. All these things he had to do, and it took a lot of patience. It took a lot of patience. But another thing I also wanted to show you is the guy was a stammerer. It's a bit like me. Sometimes I stammer a lot, and I have to kind of keep going through the videos over and over again. But he was a stammerer, and he wasn't much of a speaker, but God wanted to use him like that. The way he was, he wanted to use him like that. And I believe there's a reason for that. First of all, he wanted to show his power through Moses. That even though he didn't appear polished, he didn't appear to be somebody who was able to, hold a crowd or speak in a way that it would be respected, by nobles, if you want to say. God would still show his power in that weakness. He would show his power in that weakness. So in other words, in the imperfect things are the perfection of God. In what we deem to be not so great about ourselves, that's where the perfection of God is. That's where God perfects everything, and it becomes this imperfect perfection where we are merged with what God has created in us. It's I don't know how to explain it, but your personality is attached to purpose. If he was someone who could speak and he was all that, somebody could speak to crowds and all that stuff, the power of God would not be fully known. And it is also to show that God uses the imperfect people. It's not polished people that he goes for all the time. It's actually most times it's those who are overlooked, those who are not seen, those who are like Haggai, the Egyptian slave that was left to die in the desert. There are a lot of people in the Bible that are overlooked, and yet God used them. And I believe that's a part of the reason why he does what he does. But personality is attached to purpose too. So we are meant to embrace the way God created our spouses, especially personality wise. So when I'm saying personality wise, like I said, Moses was a stammerer, right? It's not something that he could fix. It was just within him. And I know right now they got ways of trying to minimize these things, but he was what he was. It's the quirks, our mannerisms, how we do things, how we say things. As long as they do not go against the word of God and they do not hurt and cause others to stumble, I believe that the Lord uses those things to draw mankind to himself. Remember, it's not just about us, and embracing a spouse's personality is something really that should already be happening even before marriage. That's why you see, for a believer's marriage, for those who are truly walking in the calling of God, those who are true believers, they will already be embracing themselves, embracing each other and those quirks. And some, to be honest, you would even be loving those quirks. You would love those quirks because it makes the person who they are. It makes them different. It should be of utmost importance if you want to see them flourish. There is nothing disheartening as having a spouse that would rather accept you when you are behaving as someone you are not. That is why we need to always be authentic in the way we are. If this is the way you are, this is the way you are. You can't change that. You have to be authentic. Now, if someone falls for the person that you are not because you are not being authentic, then that's a problem. You're basically setting yourself up for heartbreak, basically. So that means that if they are not accepting who you are or how you are, that means they did not accept your persona, which is really part of your core and makes you as a person unique. It is part of your identity. For example, if your spouse is loud, embrace that loudness, and help them, to channel it well so that they can be able to express themselves. It can also be used to benefit you and the family rather than squelching it and trying to quieten it down because you don't want to be embarrassed. So I'm talking about believers' marriage here. Sometimes we can do things out of error, not because we want to do it, but we find ourselves slipping into that. And so it's just good sometimes to know that embracing those things, those little quirks and things like that, it shouts that you love that person as they are. As they are. So help channel what they have. Help channel it well. And they will know where it is most useful and they will use it there. That loudness that you'll be saying, oh, she's very loud, or oh, he's very loud. That loudness can be used to promote your ministry. Maybe she was meant to be actually marketing your ministry because of how loud she is or how loud he is. I think there are certain things in which we have to retrain our minds to know that this is not a disadvantage, but rather this can be used as an advantage for us, for our family, and channel it to a place where this can be useful. Sometimes we just need to have our minds retrained. We just need to learn that there are ways of channeling things, there are ways of taking the things that your partner has and use them in productive ways that will benefit you and your family. And most importantly, the kingdom of God. So you will find that you wouldn't have to control them if they're already contributing using that persona. You will see that you won't have to control them. My battery turned off, so I'm just going to repeat my last point. I was just saying that your kingdom spouse will know where to use and where to channel their quirks, where to channel it in a way that is productive, and they will know where it's useful. So you wouldn't have to control, I'll say control in inverted commas, how they present themselves and how they are in any given situation, because you are working together as partners. You are not working against each other. You are using what the other has for the good of the marriage, for the good of the family, and for the good of the ministry. So in other words, you know exactly how to make this work for you. And it not only makes your partner feel useful, but it also makes them feel cherished and loved because you have acknowledged them in that. And actually, God would have known to put you both together. Like I said before, He knows exactly what He's doing when He puts people together because you complement each other, not just in your giftings, but also in persona. It might be that the other is loud and the other is quiet and all that stuff, but it can be a case in which it's really more to do with complementing each other to fulfill a role or to contribute to the assignment and the calling over your lives. And some of these things also bring people out of their comfort zones. So you will see that there are certain things that they might have that will pull you out of your comfort zone. So you might be not a person who doesn't like talking too much, but you'll see yourself now having to talk because your spouse loves to talk. So you have to come to a place where you meet with them because you love them and you have to, you are one. You have to come to a place where you can compromise or you can meet in a way that will strengthen your bond and make the other feel loved. So there's a lot of things there. But I pray that this has helped in having an understanding of why we have these giftings in kingdom marriages. And I just touched on the talents as well because I feel like, as I was writing, I felt like the talents as well contribute. The talents, as I said, they contribute to the building of wealth and health. So as I said, the well-being of your spouse actually comes in when it comes to their talents. They are replenished. So it contributes to your wealth and it contributes to your health. But when it comes to the giftings, it now covers a lot of things. Now that one encompasses, when it comes to protection, when it comes to ministry, when it comes to family, when it comes to, it covers a lot of things, okay? It covers so much more. It also covers the wealth and the health. It also covers the talents. So it covers quite a lot of things. So as I said, it is good to embrace one another. The way, I think this is pretty much the theme on this one, is to embrace one another the way God has made the other for the purpose of a forward momentum in kingdom agenda.